Hi, everyone, and welcome to Dimwit Criminals. This is Carrie, and I am back on day 5 of the Trezell and Jacqueline West trial. Both adoptive parents are on trial for the disappearance slash unaliving of Orrin and Orson West, the small toddlers you see here on the screen. Everybody remembers these pictures that were floating around the internet. They're finally going to be getting justice soon, we hope. But I tell you what, the defense is tearing apart this police unit. Um, I wanted to make something really clear here because yesterday afternoon, we left off. They brought up Hightower, and he's the current chief of the Cal City department. And it's good for everyone to know that he was not the one that was running things back when this all occurred in 2020. It was Officer John, ooh, what's his name? I can't remember It was Chief John Walker that was in charge. And if you guys saw a picture of him, let me see if I can put it up on the screen here. If you followed any of the news that was going on this case when it was all first dropping, you'll remember this gentleman because he sat there and gave multiple interviews. He did a couple of privates. And I don't know if anything that happened with this case in particular is why he ended up retiring. They say that he did not retire, that he wasn't asked to leave, that he actually did retire from the California City Police. So I don't know, but this is him. So you probably remember his face. You remember him sitting at his desk giving those interviews outside the home, giving the interviews. And he was sworn in January 14th of 2020. So yeah, he had a brief stint there because the disappearance quotations marks there was reported in December of 2020. And and he left in March 31st. Was that the following year? Let's watch this real quick.
The developing story. The mayor of California City tells 17 News the city's police chief resigned. California City officials say John Walker was sworn in as chief in January of 2020. No word yet on why he resigned, but Mayor Jeannie O'Laughlin says it was voluntary. Walker will stay with the department until March. The city manager will ultimately decide on a replacement. This comes 426 days after Orrin and Orson West disappeared from their adoptive parents' home in California City, and they have still not been found. If you have any information about the whereabouts of the Cal City boys, you're encouraged to call the current secret witness line at 322-4040.
You know what sucks about that, guys, is that just set that up because more specifically, Torres Stallings, who is Jacqueline West's attorney, is just going after the police department. She is calling out them on every single thing they did, and she's actually picking apart. She's finding some things there that are going to make the jury go, "Oh, why did they do that? Or why didn't they do that?" So let's go back and go over this really quickly. Maybe I'll do a video specifically on why he left. All right. So what happened today? Well, as I said, we started off with Chief Hightower coming back up on the stand. And they played the body cam footage that he had that was basically kind of like the initial questionings of when the boys were first reported missing. So this was them in the home, taking all the initial questions: what they look like, their height, their weight, what were they wearing, that kind of thing. Hightower said that they did interview everyone in the house, including the kids. And they played some videos, some photos of the house and the surrounding area, which, if you know anything about me following this case or this case itself or the trial, um, all we can get is audio, guys. We got no pictures. We got nothing. It's, uh, it's so difficult to follow this case without visuals. It really is. T. Stallings gets up and asks Chief Hightower about his body cam footage issues. And this was the big deal because If you'll remember, and I said this again yesterday, Officer Hansen initially pointed out that they were having issues with their body cam system back then during this investigation when it originally started. And they would cut in and out on their own. So she brought that up again. She asked him, so when your police officers, no, remember, he's the chief now, right? But she's asking questions as if he was the chief back then. Now, he did have, as soon as John Walker left, he took in, he was the interim, and then they finally put him in that position formally as the chief of police. So I do believe it sounds like during this investigation, he was above Officer Hansen because we're going to come across some questions here that were asked. She asked him about, well, your officers, whenever something occurs and they're going to go back to court and they're going to be watching the body cam footage, they're going to be questioned. Would you advise them to bring up their body cam footage and watch it before they go to court? And he said, yeah, they should. Well, what about reports? Do you tell your officers that they should write thorough reports? He said, well, yeah, they should. Now, this comes on the brink of yesterday's testimony where there was an officer, and I have to look back on my notes because I forget who he was. There was an officer who did not take notes yesterday. He was helping out with the investigation. He came in wearing body cam footage, and they did play some of his body cam footage, but she pointed out that he did not write a report on what he did during his interaction with them and any of the neighbors while he was there. After she said, "Do you think your officers should watch these before court? Do you think your officers should write these thorough reports and review the reports before court?" She then points out to him, "Did you do either of these things before you came to court today?" And he said, "No." I guess he had done it like for grand jury, but he had not reviewed it since the grand jury. So it was like she zapped him on that. And then she asked about the volunteers for that first night. Now, it may sound like I'm leaning towards the prosecute or the defense on this, and I am not. I totally want to get justice for Orrin and Orson. But when a defense attorney can come in and find these kind of cracks, this is huge for the jury. So, they got into volunteers, and apparently there's volunteer. So I'm not talking about somebody that said, "Oh, I'm going to volunteer to search." They were talking about volunteer police officers, which I'm not sure for if you guys are familiar with that at all. But there are some people that will volunteer with a police department. They're issued. Some of them are actually issued some uniforms. They don't carry guns. They have limited stuff that they could do, but they help out from time to time. And I think they're also a lot of them do have somewhat of a police background, but I'm not positive on that. But she had asked him about their training, and he said there was only 2 of them that they had that helped out that first night. Oh, and these volunteers had told someone that they thought Officer Hansen was the officer in charge that night. And she said, "Are you surprised that they thought that?" And he said, "Yeah, he was." Now, if you go back to think about the first night of this case, it's not like it is now where we have all of this, we pretty much know these poor little babies aren't coming back. But still, you had 2 small toddlers missing. You would have thought there would have been they would have given more attention to what was going on. All right, so she's picking up that crack. She then says, "Okay, are these to take notes?" And he says, "Yes." In her questioning, what came out was he had said Officer Hansen was supposed to retrieve those notes, or they were supposed to give them to Officer Hansen. And she said, so they were instructed to write notes and give them to Officer Hansen because apparently these volunteer officers can't put stuff in the catalog. Okay, are you guys following me? Sorry. Sorry for the pause. I'm trying to read my handwritten notes. That's the other thing. I can't play any of this stuff for you guys. I can't play you any audio. It's illegal for anybody to be showing audio anywhere about this trial. So I have to just take notes as I go. She asked, "Well, where where are these notes at? Where did they go?" He said, "I don't know." She said, "So you don't know if the notes that these volunteers took what got back to Officer Hanson?" He goes, "No." So there was lack of follow up, obviously there. Camera footage did not include their backyard. So apparently, one of the body cam footage, his particular one, his body cam footage went out when he was in the backyard. She made a big deal out of that. She also asked them why they didn't talk to all the residents that night, the different ones that had cameras. And he said that they did, but he didn't know who had talked to him. And he thought it had been in the following days. He said it could have been the Bakersfield PD, it could have been Cal City PD, it could have been the FBI. So, again, not sounding like he's very on top of what's going on here, right? So, totally killing his credibility. It's making me nervous that these guys are going to get off because if I'm sitting there as a juror, I'm thinking, wow, they really botched this case up. I don't know. So then they had him talk about the search in specific, working with the air support. And she said, "Are you the one that was advising air support?" And he said, "Yes, I was." She said, "So you were telling them where to look?" And he said, "Yes, I gave them a starting point and they were to spread out in a 5 mile radius." So she kind of touched on the fact that that was kind of, so she kind of touched on there being like lack of guidance and oversee during the search. It's kind of like, okay, here's your starting point, go. She asked him if he had attended the Trezell and Jacqueline interviews when they were brought in, and he said no, he did not. But he did learn early on. In fact, it was that following day that he learned that when Officer Hanson went to speak with the other children in the home, that it was then that those children had told them Orrin and Orson were never in this Cal City home, or that they never saw them in the Cal City home. So I want to say by day two, like, this was reported day one, you're talking late evening. By the morning, that was the first thing he did. That was the first thing Hanson did the following day was go to the grandmother, Trezell's mom's house, and interview their other four children. So by that point, they were like, kind of like, okay, this doesn't sound right. And they knew something was up. Also said that Officer Flores, who was with Hanson as he was first on scene, he had told Hightower it was not a parental abduction. I don't know where that came out, but I did catch on to that and thought, okay, so I guess that kind of took out the whole did the bio family take the kids? They also said that Hightower's body cam footage of him and Chief John Walker looking around the boys' room while Hanson was doing the interview in the kitchen with the parent, with Trezell and Jacqueline, they had watched that as well. So now let's go back to follow my other notes here. And I'm going to be bouncing back and forth to some Twitter notes as well to kind of make sure I'm not missing something. All right, now in the footage that they were showing, because this is coming from media person that was inside the courtroom, in Chief Hightower's body worn camera footage, you see him go to a neighbor's house and ask if he can look in the backyard and in this cellar window of the house for the two missing boys. And I guess they'd asked him where was it at, and he said it was on the corner of Aspen Ave and 108th Street. And in his body worn camera footage, taken on December 22nd, 2020, which is the day following the initial report, you see him looking through the West house. Jacqueline was there answering questions. She said the other four children were with their grandmother on vacation. In his body worn camera footage, he tells an officer on his walkie talkie both boys are about 3 feet tall, both wearing black sweatshirts and black or gray sweatpants. He did state that that metal gate going from the front yard to the back was actually closed when he arrived on scene. He had requested canines from the county tracking dogs. He had tasked Officer Hanson to go to Wanda West's house in Bakersfield. So that was the mother of Trezell West. So he was the one that told him, go over there and talk to the kids and the grandmother. They had talked to him about, since you didn't have body cam footage on and you were walking around the backyard, explain what you saw. He did say that he saw some chalk on the backyard patio, which that was a big deal because at one point I thought Chalk was the name of the dog. I don't know where I heard that from. That was a rumor, I guess, and I just went with it. But they were actually playing with chalk writing on the patio, and he did see signs of that. I do remember a lot of people were talking about it, that from all the media footage we saw, we never saw any writing with chalk on the patio, but apparently it was there. However, he did not see children's footprints in the dirt. When they asked him about Jacqueline's demeanor at the time, he said that it was about what wasn't there. So in other words, he was saying it wasn't that it was how she wasn't acting. He said normally um you'd be anxious, upset, and he said there was no frustration, no anger, no anxiety, she just seemed neutral. He did state that that backyard gate was heavy and difficult to open. So it's not like the boys could have done it themselves, I guess is what he's saying. They showed pictures of the gate, and he was saying that that was on the east side of the home. They showed a video of them moving the metal gate on the east side. And then at that point, that was when he got information from Officer Hanson, which changed the course of the investigation. And that was what he heard about the children. It's what they had told Officer Hanson. At that point is when they authorized the search warrants on the home of Jacqueline and Trezell in Cal City, and also the van. He said, honestly, the search warrants was to gather information and see if they missed anything. He was also contacted by FBI at that point. He seized Jacqueline and Trezell's cell phones and their laptop, and he turned over the laptop and the cell phones to the FBI. And then the DA, Eric Smith, asked Chief Hightower what the police was looking for on their cell phones and laptops, and Hightower says that they were looking for data, GPS information. They brought up several pictures of dirt dug up and a shovel in the backyard of the West home. And they asked him what was going on in these pictures, and he said they were looking for the boys. So at that point, they started digging to see if they could find the babies' bodies. And then they stated that on March 22nd, 2021, that's when the Bakersfield Police Department took over as the lead agency. At that point, they had realized that they had suspicion that it didn't happen there in Cal City. Whatever happened to the boys, we don't know what that was. That's the problem. We don't have their bodies. He says before that time, other agencies were assisting them, and the Cal City Police Department needed help with surveillance equipment and personnel, and they were getting a lot of help from surrounding agencies. He said the FBI was in on the investigation for not that long, maybe a month or two. And they detained Jacqueline and Trezell on December 22nd, 2020. Then Miss Alexia Torres Stallings comes up, and she gets on him, and she says, how many officers were involved in this whole thing? And he said that at the time, they had a total of 14 officers. And this is where she got into talking about volunteers. They called them VIPs, Volunteers in Police Service. She asked him, you have to be 18 or over. So how do you become a VIP? How do you become a volunteer in police service? And he says, well, you have to be 18 or over and pass the background check to be a part of the California City Police Department's volunteer and police services. Their training was through monthly meetings. The California City Department used 2 police volunteers for the search of the boys that day. And that's where she came in and tore him up on that, because apparently we don't know where their notes went. They did clarify that Officer Hanson was the one who responded first, and he started looking for the boys in the neighborhood and asked neighbors if they saw the boys. However, Chief Hightower was the first officer to go into the West home. Okay, I didn't realize that. I was thinking it was Hanson. When he requested the aerial support, I guess there was some fog, so they had to get the California Highway Patrol to come in and do the aerial support. In addition to the interviews that they had with Trezell and Jacqueline at their home, Chief Hightower asked Officer Hanson to interview them at the Cal City Police Department as well. He did specify that when they were digging in the backyard of the Cal City home, they were looking for human remains, but none were found. He also specified that Officer Hanson said the other children told him that Orrin and Orson were never in Cal City. Now she's jumping back on this whole thing about Officer Hanson putting his hand on Jacqueline West when she was being interviewed. And again, this interview, we have video of it, or they have video of it, and there was also people watching the interview, but she keeps going back to how he touched her. She asked if the police academy teaches officers to touch people being interrogated, and he said no. And she asked him if he thought it was appropriate for an officer to touch a person on the leg in an interrogation. He said no. She asked him if he knew Officer Hanson had touched Jacqueline on the leg in the interrogation room. He said no. And that is when she brought it up that he was not there during their interview in the police department. They pulled up again Chief Hightower's body-worn camera video from December 23rd at 7 a.m. There were 4 CCPD officers that went into the house to talk to Trezell and Jacqueline and asked them if they knew people in the pictures that they were going through. So December 23rd, this is 2 days, well, they were reported missing on the 20th. So we're 3 days in, technically, 2.5. This was right before they had told them that they had a search warrant to look into their house. So I think she might be trying to pick apart that they were going into some things that they shouldn't have been before they were advised they had a search warrant. I don't know if that's a thing. Is that a thing? When they were looking at the body camera footage, while Officer Hanson and Officer Hulse were talking to Trezell and Jacqueline, Hightower and the Chief Walker at the time, John Walker, looked in the boys' bedroom. The CCPD had seized Trezell's gun at that point. He agreed he placed Trezell's gun underneath a second bunk bed under a blanket. He said in this particular incident, it was a secure location to put the gun. That's weird. Trezell is explaining to the police in this body cam footage. So they're still watching the body cam footage, and Trezell is explaining to the police what happened the night of December 21st. He showed where he got firewood from. Oh, I'm sorry. It was December 21st. I'm getting confused. Too many zeros in all this. It was December 21st. So technically, this is 2 days to a day and a half later. He showed where he got firewood from. He said he left the gate open. He pointed to it. They asked Trezell, what do you think happened? And he said he only had assumptions. Trezell said there is a rumor going around that Orrin and Orson's parents took them. He said the parents, which I thought was weird. It's kind of weird that he says that, but that is kind of 2 days later. He said that the parents know where the Wests live. He said that scares him because they have other boys. So, of course, he's going to blame the Bio family. That's the only place he can point to, really, if you think about it. Trezell said there's more black children that don't have a black father because less black men are stepping up. And Trezell said that the nuclear black family has been screwed through the system. Chief Hightower did tell Jacqueline's attorney at that point that they thought Trezell and Jacqueline did a DNA swab test as requested by police. He believed they did. It's kind of weird that he's not like more on top of what's going on here. Tim Hennessy is the attorney for Trezell. That's where he had said that Officer Flores said that this is not a parental abduction. Tell you what, Hennessy's not really doing a whole lot. I mean, on the defense, the star on the defense, man, is this Torres Stallings. Because then the DA comes up and he's like, okay, so he had dogs from Kern County Search and Rescue look in the desert for the kids. And he said, yes, we did. All right. And did you have a signed search warrant by a judge prior to going to the West House? He said, yes, they did. Okay. And then they're saying, he said, because he three other officers came to the West house for a search warrant, he moved the location of Trezell's gun. He moved it because this was for the safety of the officers in case Trezell decided he didn't want to play nice. He said he had done this at other search warrants before. So basically, he wasn't hiding it from just anyone. He was specifically hiding it from Trezell. I get that. He says Jacqueline told him 5:30 p.m. was the last time she saw the boys. All right. Let me get back over this other note. I'm telling you guys, there's a lot here. There's a lot to unpack. A lot of it. So I'm looking at three different notes taken here by media that I believe are in the actual courtroom itself. So I guess there was no sound on that original body cam footage. And it showed a lot of dirt with a flashlight. Because remember, this all happened at night. So this was like the 21st. He was pointing the flashlight along the fence, along some vehicles, and through brush. Then the DA realized that the video was muted, so they had to replay it with audio. Nice. Now, in the video, they hear the officer searching the lot. He approaches someone and says they're looking for two small children, ages 3 and 4. He asks them if they've seen anything, and the person says no. The officer and the person are discussing motion recordings. So the officer tells the person that if they see anything on the recordings to call them. Oh, ooh, that sounds bad. That sounds bad to me because you would think the officer would say, "Okay, we need your footage now. We need it now. So we're going to go through it." Instead, he says, "Will you go through it and then let us know?" And again, I guess this goes back to the whole thing of they're not having many police officers in Cal City. It was stated that one of the reasons that John Walker left or resigned, he kept asking for more help to get more officers in there. And I think it was a budget issue. And he had mentioned that if he had anybody call in sick or had to go on vacation or somebody got hurt, that they were going to go into critical response systems because they would not have enough police readily on duty to help. So obviously the defense is going to tear that up, and that's exactly what Taurus Stallings is doing. Now, when the video ended, the DA asked Hightower about something he said at the end of the video, and Hightower says he was asking a location, and Hightower's explaining his search of the lot in the video. I still go back to that, telling the person if they see anything on the recordings to call them. You know what? If you would turn that, because if, okay, let's just say that person goes through the footage. They're trying to go through the footage. What if they accidentally delete it? It's just, that is, I want to say it's lazy, but at the same time, it may have been all he could do because of the lack of help. So they're playing the second video, and Hightower knocks on the house or knocks on a house and explains that they're looking for the two small boys. He asks the residents if he can search what appears to be a crawl space opening, and the resident says, yeah, that's fine. The DA asked if he noticed any surveillance equipment on that home, and Hightower said no. And then Hightower explained his search of the access door and the vacant lot next to that house. They then played the last video, which was the search within the West home, and you can hear Jacqueline calling out for Orrin and Orson. And it really sounded fake, you guys. It was just sad. It was horrible. She, because they were going through it. Remember that? Remember when we're just going through it. I was like, really? She said that? Okay. Bias aside, okay, Jacqueline explains that there are 6 kids total, but the other 4 were with their grandmother. That makes them look bad right then and there. Why were they not all 6 with the grandmother? So Hightower asked how long have they lived there and when they moved there, and he's gathering all the general information that I discussed earlier. Now, in this recorded interview / body cam footage, Jacqueline has a hard time remembering the boys' birth dates when they were asked. It's horrible. When Trezell returns from the home and he's now joined Jacqueline and the officer talking, Trezell is more composed when answering Hightower. Trezell gives a description of the boy's appearance, height, and weight. I do remember hearing him laugh at some point because they said something like, apparently, Orson, who was the youngest, weighed more than Oren. And he said, "So the 3-year-old weighs more than the 4-year-old?" And Trezell was like, "Yeah, that was weird." Not really a time for him to be laughing, you know? So then the officer asked if they knew the boys were outside. Jacqueline said she knew they were outside. Trezell said he thought they were in the house. He said he can't remember when he last saw them that afternoon. You guys, this isn't a cat that roams the property. These are 2 children that you're supposed to be watching. Hello? He said they called police right after looking outside. Basically, I'm going to replace that with Hightower leaves the residence and he's searching the lot again. And he gives the description of the boys over the radio and what they were wearing and all that good stuff. After the third video ends, the DA asked Hightower if the last video they watched was the first video recording from that night, and he said it was. And so the DA asked Hightower to explain on a map what he had done in the few minutes before that video began. So Hightower explains in his initial search of the backyard, he said he observed 2 exit routes in the backyard, a wooden gate that was locked and a swinging metal gate that was closed. I did not realize that wooden gate was locked. That's interesting. Now remember, they're saying that swinging metal gate was hard to open. So then Hightower says he searched the vacant lot east of the West home looking for tracks. He says he relays the information to other officers over the radio, and then the DA was started playing the audio recording of the radio interactions that night. In one of the recordings, Hightower asked for another search of the house. In another, he asked for officers to check nearby houses for ring cameras. And then in another recording, Hightower asked for a request for county assistance. So he knew he was going to need help at that point. Hightower then runs the plates of Trezell's white van, and it comes back registered to a Bakersfield address. And they find out that that address is Wanda West, who is the mother of Trezell. She is also the one who has the other 4 kids at the time. Hightower then sent Officer Hanson to the address to speak to the other West children. The DA asked, at any point, did you sit down with Jacqueline or Trezell and have them tell you what happened? And Hightower, who was supposed to be in charge of the investigation, says, I received that from other officers. So when the DA asked, did you observe the demeanor of Jacqueline West when searching the home? Hightower said yes. And he said, so what did you observe? And Hightower said, so what I've noticed is basically it was what wasn't there, no frustration, no anxiety. Then Hightower was describing that metal gate in the backyard, and he said how heavy it was and it was difficult for him to open. So they started showing the photos and the video of the gate. In the video, an officer is opening the metal gate, and the gate takes some effort for the officer to open it, and it makes a loud, rusty noise while it's being opened. So then they go into asking him, well, what did you learn from Officer Hanson, from him following his interviews with the other children? And Hightower said it changed the course of the investigation altogether at that point. He said initially they planned to continue aerial searches, but that news slowed things down and they began writing the search warrants for the West home. Hightower said he also made contact with the FBI for resources, and that he said, and I'm thinking the reason he did that was because at that point now you're talking about a whole nother agency being involved, because they believe that if the children weren't in Cal City, then they're going to be at Bakersfield before they move there, right? So that's probably why they bring in FBI. He said during the search of one of their warrants, he requested a forensic dig team. Hightower said he was present during the dig team's search of the home on Aspen Avenue. He said nothing was found during that search. He also said they seized electronics from the home, including the West cell phone. CCPD provided these items to the FBI, all of the electronic equipment. And the reason they did that was because of their lab was able to recover data much faster than they could have done at their lab there in Cal City. They were looking for images and GPS data on all of that electrical equipment. They started looking again at the images of the backyard, and the officers were digging in the area, and Hightower said that they were looking for the 2 missing boys. I don't know why they brought that up again, but so okay, now at this point, Smith starts asking about why the California City Police Department brought in Bakersfield Police Department into the investigation. And DA Smith asked how long CCPD remained the main investigating agency, and Hightower said he believed it was until March 22nd, 2021. And Hightower said that the FBI was not involved very long, maybe a month or two. Hmm, that surprises me. So Smith is now going back to the first night, which was December 21st, and he asked if the Wests were arrested at that point. And Hightower said they were detained and returned home that night, so they were just questioned. Then Miss Torres Stalin gets up and she starts asking him about his role as the chief. And Hightower explains that he became chief in October of 2022, and the former chief was John Walker. She said, "So at the time of this investigation, were you considered the number two in charge?" And he said, "Yes, I was." So she then says if he had to handle personnel issues as a lieutenant. He said, "Yes, he did." So then Torres Stallings asked Hightower if he has a department cell phone. He said no, he refused it. He didn't want one, but he did believe that Chief Walker had one at the time. One thing that Torres Stallings did pinpoint was she had asked Hightower if he requested officers to write in their reports any discrepancies of their body cam footage and put down the dates and times. And he said he doesn't remember. Torres Stalling is asking about the body worn camera being docked. Hightower said the footage will not be uploaded from the body worn cameras until it was docked. And Torres Stelling asked if a user can manipulate the footage before it's docked, and Hightower said that not to his knowledge. That's interesting. She then confirmed that is the date and timestamps on the body worn cam footage, is it correct? And he said no. Whew, this is horrible. And that's when she started asking him about the volunteers and the type of education they received, that and established they're not sworn officers. She asked if communications over the radios with volunteers and police get recorded, and he said only if the dispatcher records it. So he was giving her an example of that. Then she starts showing him the log, and she asked if Hightower knows who one of the call signs is, and he said yes. And he says there were two volunteers called in that night. So she confirmed there were 5 officers, 2 volunteers, and a transport that night. When she says transport, I believe she's talking about Ariel. And he said yes. So she starts asking about these other volunteers. And he said people just show up and start helping. He said these people did not have access to their command post. Poor Hightower. He was on the stand yesterday evening, and it's after lunch and they still got him on the stand. So Torres Stallings is showing the photos of all the chalk around the home. That was good for her to, I mean, she's sharp. And she starts asking about the video of the gate being opened by officers, and she asked if they ever examined if the gate could open the other way, and he said they did not. Oh. Oh, that's bad. So then she starts asking him about the FBI dig. And she asked if the FBI took apart the whole yard, and he said yes, they did, but nothing was found. All right, then she starts going back to his handling of personnel issues. And she asks him about speaking for the department as the acting chief, and he asks if this means other officers should not speak for the department, and he agreed. She's asking Hightower if Hansen has any special training to handle children and if that's why he was sent over there, and Hightower said that that's not why he was sent. She starts getting into, so then Tora Stalling starts asking questions about speaking with children in relations to having a situation where you have a suspect in mind and speaking with children when you don't have a suspect. Again, she hit on this the other day because she said that in that report that this form they're supposed to fill out when they're speaking with the children, that Officer Hansen skipped over a couple of initial questions, and what she's trying to get across to the jury and what she's doing here, let me just cut to the chase. She's trying to basically say, look, from day one, they were going after the West Trezell and Jacqueline West. They didn't even have other suspects that they were like investigating. So that's kind of her angle, I guess, so to speak. She asked Hightower if he had ever watched the interviews that Hanson did with the other West children, and he said he had not. Oh, this is awful. This is so bad. This is so bad. He has seen the form that Hanson filled out about the interviews. She then, Tora Stallings, Jacqueline's attorney, then asked Hightower to walk her through how Hanson relayed what was said during the interviews. And she asked if Hanson ever mentioned asking about murder, and Hightower said no. Hightower said that Hanson told him the children said Orrin and Orson had never been in Cal City. So then Tora Stallings asked about the interview form and whether those statements were recorded in any of the answers on the form, and they were not. So again, she's saying you skipped over these key questions. When they're looking at one of these body cam footage videos, apparently the children were also present during that time. And Hightower had asked to search the boys' room. And that's when him and John Walker went in there and searched the closets. And he found the gun that belonged to Trezell and he put it elsewhere. She's trying to make it sound like, okay, so you put that firearm at the end of the bunk bed in the children's bedroom. Do you feel like that was a secure location? And he said in that instance he did think it was. That's when he starts speaking with Trezell separately in the video, and they go to the backyard. She's asking him about when was this video, and he said he doesn't even know. But this was the point when Trezell started talking about the biological family. And Torres Stallings asked, well, did anybody from CCPD follow up with the bio family? And he said he was not sure if the CCPD or BPD did, meaning Bakersfield. This is awful, guys. If these people get off, this is going to suck so bad. These children were already wronged to go to this home to begin with, and now they're going to be wronged after death. This is horrible. So then she's asking if anyone made a report about speaking with the bio family, and he said he doesn't know. She points out that some of the boards on the back fence were loose. They're still in the body cam footage, and Trezell is discussing adoption and families with Hightower. And he explains that the previous night he was riled up and had said he appreciates the officers investigating. Then Hennessy gets up to talk to Hightower, or to cross Hightower, and says about the video where Trezell mentions getting heated the night before. Did Hightower know that there had been a disagreement the first night between Hanson and Trezell? And Hightower said he did not. Hennessy is Trezell's attorney. Hennessy asked if Hanson ever informed him of a tip that was received from Officer Koleski. I know I said that wrong. Kalakios? And Hightower said no. And Hennessy asked Hightower if he received a request of a list of sex offenders in the area. And he says yes, but he doesn't recall who he delegated that to. Then they start talking about the dogs that were brought out to search the first night. And Hennessy asked Hightower if he instructed the search and rescue to follow the route Trezell's van took that night. The DA did get back up and said, okay, when you sent the dogs out after the van's route, Hightower said it was to see if the kids had been driven away somewhere. So that's what they were getting off of that. And Hightower said he just thought it was something that they should do. He said they got the route after reviewing the ring cam footage. So then, Smith had to touch again on him moving the firearm. And he basically just said, why did you remove the firearm? And he said, because in case they didn't play nice, I needed to make sure that Trezell or Jacqueline did not know where the gun was. It was for the protection of the officers. They clarify that. And he also clarified that he had the search warrant to the home before he moved the firearm. He said, yes, he did. If they had not had a warrant, they would have just made sure everyone was aware there was a firearm in the home and where it was. So then the DA asked Hightower his decision on sending Hansen to interview the other children in Bakersfield, and Hightower said he did not anticipate the information Hansen would bring back. Not that that really sounds that great of an answer. So then he says, okay, well, can you explain the difference between the incident commander and the primary investigating officer? And Hightower explains his role was to delegate responsibilities to others, including those who would become lead investigators. So I guess him saying that is them trying to get away from him not knowing a lot of this information. But I still think, even though he wasn't the lead investigator, if he's over the lead investigators, he should still have all this information, right? Because he should still be involved in the case. I don't know. That's just my personal opinion. So then Hennessy gets back up and asks Hightower about the importance of writing reports. Hightower agrees that reports are important not only for police officers but for court and lawyers during the court cases. Hennessy has concluded there was something said that on the body cam footage, Hightower told another officer, "Make sure that you check every little thing that you can, okay?" Hightower did say while he was on the stand that he did not see any tracks or anything that would lead him to believe that anyone had been in that side lot, which I find interesting because, that side lot is where supposedly Trezell went out the gate to go collect wood. Okay, Hightower did say on the stand that he looked in the West van to see if there were any shoe tracks or tire tracks, anything to follow in a dirt lot next to the house. Hightower said there was a concrete slab just outside the back door of the California City home with some chalk drawings on it. He said he saw no children's footprints in the dirt. What? Okay. Oh, Lord. Apparently, too, there were some differences in the clothing descriptions that the boys were wearing that were sent out over the radio communications compared to what the West had told the police. Oh, and another thing, too, you guys, Hightower says he never wrote a report during the investigation. Hightower did say that he had asked Jacqueline West if she closed the gate in the backyard, but that interaction wasn't captured on the body cam footage. Again, she's just pointing out discrepancies from the time listed on the Hightower's body camera footage to what the actual time was. This is tourist stalling. A man Hightower spoke with that night had cameras on his property. The man only reviewed his footage as far back as 5:26 p.m., not earlier. Ugh, it's horrible. At another home, Hightower didn't notice surveillance cameras, but said he didn't ask the homeowner if they had any. He doesn't know which agency eventually did ask. Now we're getting back into some notes here from when he was asked about keeping an open mind during an investigation, and Hightower said it was important to do that. He believes that what he says as police chief reflects upon the entire police department. He testified he was not aware that Officer Michael Kalakios, had made comments about the case on Facebook and got in trouble for it. Okay, I don't even know what's going on with. I don't know about that, guys. If you know about that, please put the comments below because I'm not aware. But the DA objected to that over lack of foundation, and then his Hightower's response was stricken from the record. Hightower testified he doesn't know any specialized training any of the Cal City officers had in dealing with children. He agreed that the way you speak to a child is different than the way you speak to an adult. Torres Stelling asked if he watched the interviews conducted with the West children. He said he had never seen them, and yesterday was the first time he saw the form with the children's answers. And her response was, okay. Big pause, and then she moved on. Hightower did say that Hansen did not use the words murder or assisting in murder regarding his interviews with the children. He said Hansen told him the children said Orden and Orson were never in the Cal City home. The police told the West that they wanted them to come in and look at some photo lineups, and Hightower is given permission to look into the boys' bedroom. And he looks through their closets. He shines a flashlight along the wall and into the corners. Hightower said there were several search warrants served on the home. He's not sure when they located a firearm, but they did find one. He said it would have been taken, made safe, and kept in a secure space. Then she pauses. Then it shows Torres Dowling finds the video footage of Hightower holding a pistol, and she pauses the video. She asked him where he found it. He said in the closet. Hightower goes back into the room where they're all being, where what the Wests are being questioned in the video, and he asked if the living room looks like it did 2 days earlier when the boys were reported missing. He said it did. In the video, Hightower and Trezell West go in the backyard. We've already kind of talked about that. Trezell makes the comments in the video that the case was getting a lot of attention and how crazy people were starting to act. He told him that at first he thought the boys were just playing hide and seek. And Trezell tells Hightower that he was stressed. He asked what he thinks happened. He said people are talking about how maybe the biological parents took them. She paused the recording, and Hightower said the biological parents were interviewed. He said he believes they were interviewed the same day as the recording was made. Okay. Trezell was the one who pointed out that some of the planks on the backyard fence were loose. Hightower had said he doesn't know if anyone checked to see if the planks were loose or partly open. And then Trezell starts talking about changing the boys' names from Sincere and Classic to Orrin and Orson. He says the other 4 children are partly Hispanic, and Orrin and Orson are black. I don't know what the point of that was, but Trezell in the video talks about the need for more black children to be adopted and be part of strong families. And then the conversation pivots to Trezell talking about how he creates beats and sells them to other musicians online. And then that's when they get the DNA from the Wests. All right. So this is all kind of, some of this stuff was kind of already talked about when the other officer had done his testimony a few days ago. But now we're looking at Hightower's, perspective and his body cam footage from all of it. So when Hennessy gets back up, now Hennessy gets up, he's Trezell's attorney. Hightower says that his plan was during the recording just played, they were to divide the couple, make sure there were no weapons, and then question them. He said he didn't tell the couple they had a search warrant and doesn't know if someone else did. Hennessy asked about the first dog that was sent to the scene to search for the boys, and Hightower said it was a tracking dog. He said he directed search and rescue to follow the route that Trezell's van took, but he said that that wasn't all they did. They went to other locations. And Hightower made the point to say that the reason he sent Hansen to question the other children was because he was in the process of getting more people ready for more searches. And Hightower had said he relied on Officer Hansen to write reports in this case. Okay, let's all throw each other under the bus. Okay, in a missing persons case, it's necessary to walk through the scene to try and locate the person. This is all what Hightower is saying. He said that they rely on what Trezell and Jacqueline told them the first night of the search. But knowing what he knows now, he would have done things differently. And I mean, that makes sense, I guess. He said that when the local citizens came and started searching for the boys, he had no control over them going into public areas. When Alexis Torres got back up there again, she asked him about whether he was aware that any of the children that were questioned by Officer Hansen had any physical or learning disabilities. And he said he doesn't know if they did. Hightower testified he doesn't know if Hansen told him the children knew the difference between right and wrong. And again, they beat on the whole thing of everybody, like, I guess they figure maybe all these people going out and searching is going to contaminate the scene, right? But Hightower clarified for Hennessy that there was nothing he could do to stop members of the public from going into the desert area the night of the disappearance, or night it was reported. Okay. Next witness is Maria Martinez. And why is this so important? This is important because this is Jacqueline's mother, Jacqueline West's mother. Maria Martinez So she lives in Oregon with three adopted children. She adopted them in 2019. She also has three adult children. Oh, she's living off adoption funds too. Um, Martinez lived in Bakersfield before moving to Oregon. She lived in an apartment on Lotus Lane. Prosecutor Eric Smith has shown her a map of the apartment complex. She says she doesn't understand it at first. Then she realizes, oh, okay, she understands it. So basically, the apartment where Martinez lived was identified, and she lived there for 15 years. And at some point during that time, Trezell and Jacqueline West moved into the same apartment complex. Martinez shared a wall with the couple. She can't remember how long they lived there. She testified that the West biological children are her grandchildren. Martinez was a foster parent and went to classes with Jacqueline West on how to make sure the house was safe for children, among other classes. Okay, this is weird. Because she says she knows that the West adopted four children, but she doesn't know their names. They lived right next door to each other, guys. Shared a wall in the building. Doesn't know the kids' names. So she's either covering or this is just the oddest thing I've ever heard in my life. She testified that she knows that they adopted four children, but she doesn't know their names. She said Jacqueline West had her own life and she had hers. Maybe mommy doesn't want to cooperate with the DA. Maybe that's what's going on here. I don't know. She said she communicated with her daughter, Jacqueline West, on Facebook at times. They lived on the other side of the wall from you and you talked on Facebook? Smith has displayed a photo of Jacqueline with four of the children and asked if her to identify each person. She has trouble with naming all of them. Whew. She only remembers the names of the biological children. See, it's as if the mentality of the whole family is that, the adopted children aren't the same as the biological children. You get guys, are y'all picking up what I'm laying down here? Orrin and Orson weren't pictured in the photo, and Martinez said they were adopted in 2019. She said she doesn't remember their ages when they were adopted. Asked how often she visits Jacqueline and the kids, Martinez said almost never. She said she had to take care of her kids and Jacqueline had to take care of hers. That's so odd. You're going to go all the way to live next door to each other, but you're not going to communicate? This is BS, guys. This mama is covering. Under questioning by the DA, Martinez said Trezell had nothing to do with her not visiting. She said she rarely visits anyone. She also said she never watched Trezell and Jacqueline's children in 2019 or 2020. No, we wouldn't see each other, she said. And then that's when she said she recognized the photo of them, but she couldn't remember their names. I guess they brought up another photo. And I guess he clarified, so you don't ever remember babysitting these children. And she said she didn't remember. This is the other weird thing. She tells them that the West didn't tell her they were moving. They just moved out. And she didn't find out until afterwards. So they moved to the Cal City home. She testified that she did not watch any of the six children while they were moving, but that Jacqueline West had later called her to tell her that they had moved to California City. And at that point, she took the West some plants for their new home. She identified photos of the plants taken on her phone. Her phone was given to law enforcement to extract the information. There were some messages from Jacqueline asking when she was arriving at the Cal City home. Martinez says she just got the plants from the car, then she left the Cal City home. What? Martinez says she just got the plants from the car and then she left the Cal City home. Jacqueline helped her get the plants from the car. Martinez says she didn't go into the home that day, which was October 10th of 2020. How convenient. She drives all the way out there, but she doesn't bother to go in and do a walkthrough of her daughter's new house. Come on now. During video chats with her daughter, she never talked with the children. But she did say, the mother does say this, it was weird that she wouldn't show them. That when she talked to her daughter on the phone, she never saw the grandchildren, like she wouldn't show them on the phone. And she found out the FBI, well, Martinez says she found out that the boys were missing when the FBI came to her home. Martinez says that in December of 2020, Trezell West dropped Jacqueline off and they went to eat tacos. She said Jacqueline told her Trezell and the kids were going to Trezell's mom's. This was just around December 5th or 6th. And that was it. She's going to come back up tomorrow at 9:30. Now see, this is okay. This is where information gets skewed and messed up because in another news reporter, he says they lived in the same apartment complex in a building next to Trezell and Jacqueline. But then that other reporter had stated they shared a wall. When she went to the home on October 10th of 2020, she said she didn't see any of the kids. I mean, even just being a grandmother, wouldn't you say, "Well, let me see the kids while I'm here? I don't get to see them. I haven't seen them since you moved in September or whatever." When she came to go eat tacos, it was on Jacqueline's birthday. And she didn't go outside when they dropped Jacqueline off. I guess they didn't even go in. So they dropped Jacqueline off. She didn't even see the kids at that point. So yeah, that's it. Craziness. I'm telling you, either mama's hiding something or they had a really weird relationship. But I just find it odd that you'd go to the trouble of living in the same apartment as your mother and you guys would not. I mean, I I and this is just an example. Like I moved very, very close to my sister's house because I wanted to be next to them, right? And we see each other at least every other day. We talk daily. But you don't move next door to somebody to not see them or stop in or that's just so weird to me. Y'all know something's being withheld. Something's being withheld. Maybe we'll find out tomorrow morning because I do believe that maybe they'll get more into that. All right. Thank you for watching, everyone. This might have been a long one. I apologize it was so long. I hope it helps you understand where we're all going here on the case. Let's pray, 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 pray that things get better for the prosecution on this one. And y'all have a blessed evening. Until tomorrow.